Hello out there, wherever you are. As for me, well, it is Steel City Con weekend. Very exciting times. There's a lot of intrigue going into this one. You know, when they first started putting out the schedule for this, I was you know, they had some Cobra Kai people, and that was pretty cool. And I like Cobra Kai, but I wasn't like overly enchanted. But then they added some really cool additions like Weird Al, like Martin Sheen, people I'm trying to meet today. But there's also Mark Summers. I was a big Double Dare kid. Guts, I was a big Guts kid. You know, Thomas Lennon, who's Dangle from Reno 911, John C. McGinley, Dr. Cox from Scrubs, and many, many other things. So a nice lineup of a hodgepodge of interesting talent. So I decided to take a half day from work, head down here on a Friday, because most of the people I want to see are here on a Friday. Now, the bummer is, people that I was intrigued by, that I may have considered good meeting, like Priscilla Presley or Dennis Rodman or a few other people, are only here, or Chris Jericho for that matter, are only here Saturday or Sunday. So that's a bit of a bummer. But we're gonna meet who we can meet. We walked past a guy that he could smell his distinct body spray. And he's like, wow, he got it like caked on. And I went, well, consider the alternative. I mean, I'm not the only one who observes this. I'm sure most of you do. But some of you do not put on deodorant. And you stink. And you really need to.
Well, that's in your opinion.
I'm not saying some of you. You people that watch my videos are awesome. And you definitely wear deodorant. But the rest of you, my God, put on deodorant. So I had no problem with him being caked, fully lathered in Axe body spray. But I wanted to mention I've come in with an audacity to ask attitude today. If I don't walk out of here with at least a few people doing an intro for the channel, I'll be severely disappointed. So, we are going to hopefully go in, we'll hopefully get some intros, meet some cool people. Hopefully it will not be too busy for the people I want to meet. But it is busy. I did have to park at the mall even on a Friday. I didn't see any parking spots open, even though the hotel was unoccupied. So, let's get into Steel City Con Friday, August 2024 edition. And Tom was here.
Oh, hi, it's Lieutenant Tim Dangle of the Reno Sheriff Department, and you're watching Tom Was Here.
Alright, we're heading in. See what's going on here. Officially, Steel City Con. Alright, we're in, folks. We are in. It's a Friday. Thank you. Alright. We are in. In December, yeah. Yeah. Gary! Doesn't look nearly as busy as it usually is on Saturdays and Sundays, thankfully. We'll go back to the celebrity room, we'll see what's doing back there. See how it goes. But yeah, not too bad so far. Solid Friday crowd, but not necessarily, you know, as busy as it is on, say, Saturdays and Sundays. And let's give credit where credit is due. They did put Baby in the corner. And kudos to whoever planned that. Well played. Well played. I see you. Well done. You did put Baby in the corner. And that's smart. That's good planning.
I want to ask you a little bit about your early career. What inspired you to do acting and writing? And did you ever do stand-up comedy? You seem like a natural.
I did try stand-up comedy early on when I was in New York, but my background was more of I wanted to be an actor. And this, you know, Mark talked about when we were coming up, no one knew what Nickelodeon was. So if you went to do a job like that, like now people, I'm sure there's people out in the audience, they've seen me in an acting role and they're like, well, I just remember him as the guy on Guts. Well, there's people who, they don't even know that I was on this show. They don't even know that it exists. Certainly, when I was in my 20s on Nickelodeon, Because I think the brand really blew up with like SpongeBob. I'm talking about like where everyone knew what it was, and so it was just like going to do a gig. You do a commercial, but you really took yourself sort of seriously as an actor.
And then 2 major restaurants in New York, and then written 3 books that won the James Beard Award. And I went in to pitch her. It was using 3 ingredients. It was called Recipes 1, 2, 3, Desserts 1, 2, 3. And I took it to the Food Network to pitch this as a series. And they kept saying to me, well, why don't you do a show on Food Network? And I went, I don't know anything about food. I don't know how to cook. Why would I do a show? And they were not listening to me about pitching this woman, and they just kept coming back to me. And so the meeting went horrible, needless to say. They didn't want to use the talent I had there. And then I get a phone call the next day, and they had done research and found out that the kids who grew up watching me on Nickelodeon were now starting to find Food Network, and they figured they'd follow me over. So they handed me a show called It's a Surprise. It was about surprise parties. The surprise was nobody was watching.
Back home now, it has been a full day. Not only did I go to Steel City Con, but I also went to the Steelers game. So if you watch my other videos, normally I do kind of a recap in my car after I go through the day. And I am only going to Steel City Con on this Friday, because this Friday had all the people I wanted to meet. As you saw in the first intro, Thomas Lennon, Lieutenant Jim Dangle, who by the way is killing it. So when they announced that he would be doing his photo ops in his Reno 911 uniform, I was like, man, I should probably get a photo op with Thomas Lennon. Only to find out, because I didn't get there till well after his photo op time, and I only had tickets for Friday, that not only is he going all in on the Jim Dangle thing, he's wearing the uniform the entire day, doing ridiculous photo ops, working the crowd, just fully over the top. Everything you would want of your Reno 911 dreams, Thomas Lennon was here to deliver the goods. And I'll be honest, I like Thomas Lennon, I like Reno 911. He wasn't one that I was kind of on the fence, because I wanted a photo op with him. And when I wasn't able to make that happen, I was like, well, I'm not really sure, maybe. But when I saw him going full dangle on people, I was like, oh, I gotta get a picture with him. And as I mentioned in my intro, the audacity to ask. And I figured, man, Thomas Lennon, come from an improv background, and he's full dangle at this point. I was like, he'll do an intro. I think he'll do an intro for the channel. And he delivered the goods.
Oh, hi, it's Lieutenant Tim Dangle of the Reno Sheriff Department, and you're watching Tom Was Here.
Thank you, good sir. Awesome to meet you. I greatly appreciate it. The only bummer of him doing the intro as Dangle is I didn't get a full, because he was doing wild poses with people, like ridiculously absurd, over the top, Reno 911 perfection photos with people, and that's my only regret. But man, he did a hell of an intro, and I can't thank him enough for that. That was not the only person that I asked to do an intro for the channel. In fact, I believe I almost doubled my entire intro catalog at this Steel City Con, because I developed an audacity to ask. I've done this before in the past, and I mentioned this, like I said, in the intro. The boldness of asking, the risk that they could possibly say no, and if that's the worst that could happen, is that they go, no, I don't want to do that. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Based on this lineup, I was like, I think I can get almost anyone to do an intro for the channel. And so I did that. I asked almost everyone. Now, I did not ask everyone. But my first stop after meeting Thomas Lennon, because Thomas Lennon was my first stop, was meeting Mark Summers. Mark Summers, where you may or may not know, I am a kid of the 80s and 90s. I grew up watching Double Dare, Super Sloppy Double Dare, What Would You Do? Every iteration that Mark Summers was hosting on Nickelodeon, I was in. That was my guy. And, I love Double Dare. I wanted to be a contestant on Double Dare. But I didn't ask him too much about Double Dare, even though I did get him to sign, because I figured the pure 80s aspect of Double Dare, the 80s and 90s, what better thing to do than to get him to sign an original Nintendo cartridge of Double Dare. of which I played a ton. It's not a great game, but this kind of is a small representation of my childhood. Not just Nintendo, but also Double Dare, and he was kind enough to sign it. But what I did ask Mark Summers about, and we talked for a significantly long time about this, and you may not be familiar with this at all. In fact, I wasn't familiar with this until about a couple years ago. Mark Summers was on The Tonight Show a few years back, and the main guest on The Tonight Show was Burt Reynolds. And Burt Reynolds was going through a divorce at the time. And Burt Reynolds decides to stay out on the couch when Mark Summers comes out as the second guest. And he throws like a comment at him, says something to the fact of like, and I'm going to speak out of turn, the context of it, but feel free to watch this. This is on YouTube. You can find this. Where he's like, wow, that's really all you are. Like, you're just somebody that, like you just throw pies at, kids throw pies at you or whatever. Like, he kind of demeaned him. And as mentioned, Burt Reynolds was going through a divorce at the time. So maybe he wasn't in the best of moods. Mark Summers acknowledges that he's getting demeaned by Burt Reynolds, says, well, at least I'm still married. We've got an ooh from the crowd. And Burt Reynolds took his cup of water and threw it on Mark Summers. Mark Summers turned around and threw his cup of water on Burt Reynolds. This is all on The Tonight Show. Then they go to the commercial break, and then they come back, and they decide they're going to settle this by throwing pies at each other. And Burt Reynolds, when he throws the pie at Mark Summers, he does it almost like a punch, like forcibly. And I said, if I ever get a chance to ask Mark Summers about this, because I want to know what went down. I want to know what happened, during a commercial break. I want to know everything, because it's just the wildest video if you can find it. And please, as much as I want you to watch this video, for the context of this, feel free to look it up. Pause this video, bookmark it, like, comment, subscribe, all those things, and go watch the Burt Reynolds, Mark Summers Tonight Show clip from the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And it's wild. It's one of the wildest pieces of TV you'll ever see on as far as live TV is concerned. And he was very forthcoming with it. We talked, like I said, for a long time about this. And he's like, I can't, I don't even know how this happened. Like, I don't even know why this happened. He was very mean to me. He was very cold to me. He apparently got some information from Burt's representation the next day that said that he called Mark Summers a bottom feeder of the entertainment community, and that he disrespected a star, being Burt Reynolds. And, the story has layers. This is one, there are some encounters with celebrities that are so enjoyable and fun conversations that I wish I would have just said, hey, do you want to film a quick interview? Which I'm kind of working my way up to do so. I feel the audacity to ask for an intro for the channel might be my limit as far as Steel City Con, unless I somehow work something out with the people at Steel City Con to just saddle up to someone and do a quick 3-question interview with them. Beyond that, I don't know if I could go as far as doing a full interview, but I'm kind enough to, I've reached a point where I've done the audacity to ask for an intro for the channel, because I love the little intros for the channel. It's cool to have people that, that I've long enjoyed and admired just do a quick intro saying, Tom was here, you're watching Tom was here, whatever, etc. But man, oh man, would I have loved to film that interview with Mark Summers and have you hear the story, the crazy story about him and Burt Reynolds at the Tonight Show, because I was fascinated. And he gave me the time, and I've loved Double Dare growing up. And even though Mark Summers is older, and I myself am older, and seeing Mark Summers older makes me feel older because I remember watching him as a child. Beyond that, he was gracious, he was kind, he did an intro for the channel, and he told me a great story about him and Burt Reynolds on The Tonight Show. One of my favorite encounters at Steel City all the time was Mark Summers.
Hi there, Mark Summers here. You're watching Tom is Here, and ready? On your mark, get set, go!
I was also a fan of Guts in the 90s. I loved Guts, and Mike O'Malley's sitting there, and I like Mike O'Malley. I always liked him, not just, on Yes Dear and a few other things that I watched over the years. I always like when he pops up in things. He is carve quite a little character actor niche for himself. But man, whenever I see Mike O'Malley, I think Guts, because that was the show I grew up with. And like Double Dare, and like What Would You Do, and like Legends of the Hidden Temple, and a few other game shows that Nickelodeon had, I wanted to be on Guts. I wanted to compete on Guts. And when you watch the Q&A that both Mark Summers did and Mike O'Malley did, they want to do a Guts and Double Dare with kids that competed on Double Dare as grown adults competing on Double Dare and as grown adults competing on Guts. Now, I think their idea is a great idea. Apparently Nickelodeon does not, or some of the other people that would do this do not. But I wouldn't extend it to people that were on Guts before or were on Double Dare before, but people that wanted to be on Double Dare, that grew up with that and grew up with Guts. I would absolutely compete. And yeah, I'd maybe hurt my foot again or tear an ACL, but it'd be for the glory of being on Guts or Double Dare, because I would love that for my life. So if they ever come across this and they ever get this off the ground, I would like to be included in Guts or Double Dare, because I love those shows, and I would happily compete on either of them. But Mike O'Malley was sitting there, and I had to ask him, so I came up to him and I said, spoil a 90s kid's dreams. And the first thing that came out of his mouth before I finished, and it wasn't the question I was going to ask, but it's the question I should have probably asked. And he immediately went, no, I did not sleep with Maura Quirk. If you watched Guts, you know that the hot British nanny of a referee, Maura, was, for certain children, including myself, was very attractive. And I mean, I wouldn't say she's my first celebrity crush, but you're like, she was, like I said, it was the 90s, you were a little kid, but she had the British thing going on, and yeah. But he did not sleep with her. Which I feel like he should have tried. No. No, I would have tried. No. No, it's a funny thing. But actually, I was going to ask him, I literally thought that when you won Guts, you got a glowing piece of that radical rock. You got the aggro crag, and you got the trophy, and you were able to go around with the trophy. And I literally thought they recycled the trophy for every winner. That no kid got to actually go home with an aggro crag. No kid got to go home with one of the gold, silver, or bronze medals from Guts. And I was delightfully confirmed to find out that that is not the case. That every kid did get a glowing piece of that radical rock. Apparently it was a lamp that you could plug in that every kid got. So it wasn't exactly like the actual trophy that they got to carry around when they won, but they did get something. I had a working ruse with my brother and his friend when they were really young, that I had competed on Guts, that because On Demand didn't exist, in the 90s, when I told them this, that I had won the Aggro Crag trophy, and that it was buried in the attic somewhere. And that I could never find it. I told them this for years. They bring it up almost all the time to me. So it was funny that people that actually were on Guts, there exists somewhere in the world. My guess is, I'm sure there might be one on eBay right now. And I know there were companies that put out versions of the Aggro Crag trophy. I wish I had space for it, because I would have happily brought that in to have Mike O'Malley sign it. Now, the difference is, with Mark Summers and having a Nintendo cartridge signed, that can easily fit, even though my cabinet is pretty full up, that can easily fit in the cabinet here. A giant Aggro Crag trophy will not. In fact, I would have no idea where to put it, but I was tempted by the thought when they announced him. But they announced him so late that I couldn't even have got it if I tried. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to have him do an intro, and I'm going to have him say something, either toss... I kind of had the idea to toss it over to Mo before the intro started, but in this circumstance, I was like, if you could just throw in a little Gut stuff, just do all that. And he said something like, "You're watching TomWasHere," and he didn't say anything. He took like a beat, and then he said, "Tom's gonna spill his." I went, "Oh, perfect."
It's Mike O'Malley.
and you're watching Tom Was Here. You're watching Tom spill his guts.
Perfect. We all remember. If you weren't a 90s kid, I say once again to stop this video, to go on YouTube, to watch an episode of Double Dare or an episode of Guts, and come back. And I know you might not be delighted like I was delighted as somebody that grew up with it, but still, it was fun shows, and I really dug them. So not to be outdone, I went for another intro. And it was Dr. Cox himself. It was John C. McGinley, the great character actor who's been in so many films and TV projects. I was trying to figure out if I should, reference Scrubs or Office Space or The Rock or Platoon or Wall Street or The Belko Experiment. I could name Stand Against Evil I loved and left on a cliffhanger. All great shows and movies that this guy was in. Now Scrubs I loved. Scrubs, he's terrific as Dr. Cox. Arguably his most famous role of all his many, many roles. In fact, he's most identified, I would say, as Dr. Cox. But with him, I was trying to figure out what, and so I asked him, I was just going to have him do the same thing I ask everybody to do, is to say, hey, I'm John C. McGinley, and you're watching Tom Was Here. That's all I wanted to say, but I happened to ask him a question, which I think slightly threw him off, but also made something work, where I said, when you're walking around in the street and someone stops you, what do they most throw at you? Is it Scrubs quotes? Is it Office Space quotes or whatever? He's like, Office Space? Let's do Office Space. And he did the, what would you say you do here? And I reference that all the time. If you didn't watch Office Space, it's a classic workplace comedy. And if you're too young to know what work is like, you can watch Office Space, and that'll give you a good idea what work is like. To get him to quote that in an intro is fantastic to me. Now, he did kind of say, like, instead of saying you're watching Tom Was Here, he just said Tom Was Here. And which is fine. That's fine.
Hey, it's Johnny C. McGinley. What would you say you do here? Tom Was Here.
If you've done an intro for me, which I know is a bold ask, because that's not something that's a standard thing. Generally, when you pay for a selfie with a person, you're just getting a selfie. You're getting a picture. The intro's an extra mile. And they could easily say no. And I would not be upset if anybody said no. In fact, I don't think I've run into anybody that said no to me when I asked. And so, thrilled, honored, excited, and fans for life of Thomas Lennon, of Mark Summers, of Mike O'Malley, and of John C. McGinley, who were all kind enough to do a new intro for the channel. Top men in my book. They're awesome. Big fans of all of them prior to even doing an intro for me, but even more so now by just taking the extra few seconds. It only takes a few seconds to do one, and they were all kind enough to do it, and the top men in my book. Then there was two people that I had planned to meet to kind of close this out, and I knew time was running out because I had to go to the Steelers game later that evening, so I didn't have much time. And the Steelers game was a late addition to the schedule. I had not planned to do anything on Friday night other than come home and watch the Steelers game. Not planned to go to the Steelers game, so it made the schedule a little tight. But Weird Al was there, and I had something for Weird Al to sign. I had this. And I had thought to get maybe a Weird Al album, this is a Weird Al album, but I had thought to get one of the original albums, like either Amish Paradise or, maybe the Bad parody, something like that. But then I was like, how many people can I honestly say, and the answer is none prior to this, sign something that's a soundtrack to a film that is about their life? No one, hardly no one. So I was like, that's an interesting, cool type thing. And I do the thing I've rarely done, which if you see most of my autographs here are not specifically made out to me. I went, you know what, heck it, let's do it. Let's make it out to Tom, because Weird Al's a legend, for God's sakes. And I was this close. to asking him to do an intro. The way they were doing it, Al's line was the longest line I waited in the entire day. And what you do is you hand it off to the lady, and kudos on this lady. The lady that was doing the photos for Al took a bunch of different photos. He took photos when he's signing stuff. He took photos when you're meeting him. He took photos when, you're talking to him. And then an actual photo op, of which Al had a thing where if you got an autograph from him, you got the selfie included, which I do like. That is a really cool thing that more people should do. Instead of it being a combo, it's like, hey, I know this pricing's a little high, but you're getting an auto and you're getting a selfie in one included price, which I appreciate and dig. And I was this close, and I think he would have done it. I've watched him and listened to his songs since I was a little kid. I really wanted him to do an intro, but my son also gets kind of weirded out when I do intros. She's like, because I don't know what to do, I just stand there. And I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of stand there too. Like, it's the person doing the intro. But I was this close, and then they were moving the line along so quick that when I was going to ask him, like, I went to, like, hey, very nice meeting you again, big fan, because my son asked him about meeting Michael Jackson. Because my son grew up on Michael Jackson songs, and Al had a great response. He's talking about, like, you're meeting someone that is not, it's an international famous person. It's a person that you don't realize even exists almost. Like, there's an aura around this person. And I thought it was a great response, and he talked to him a little bit about that. And when I was leaning into, like, very nice meeting you, I was this close to going, like, can you do a quick intro for the YouTube channel? And by the time that happened, the next person was coming around the table, and I went, oh, it's too late. And so I just got a picture with Al. He, top guy, big fan, love that guy. He said, signed the album, took his time to do a quality signature. The silver on the purple looks great. And happy to have that. That will be going on the wall. But it would have been that much sweeter to get an intro. But I got 4 intros. Like I said, I wasn't going to be greedy. And then the last one of the day was Martin Sheen, the legend, the screen legend. I mean, Apocalypse Now and Wall Street and The Departed and The West Wing and so many things that you can name. The Dead Zone, for God's sakes. He's been in so many classic films and classic performances. I almost considered doing an intro for him, but the way it worked is my friend Matt had never been to a Comic-Con before. He was going to meet us there. He arrived a little bit later than he wanted to, but he did want to meet Martin Sheen because he's a giant West Wing fan. And he had brought the entire series of the West Wing to get signed. But at the last moment, he was like, I don't know if I want to get that signed. He kind of like, he did the thing that people do at Comic-Cons, and you might know this, and I certainly well know it, where I bring things for people to sign, like this, and there's just times when I'm like, do I need them to sign that? Generally when I buy something to get someone to sign, I'm pretty confident at this point, but there might be stuff I have around in my house, and I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if they signed it? And then you get to the point and you're like, do I need them to, I could just do a picture. That would be fine. It would be less money. You're already meeting other people throughout the day. And I think he had that moment early on where he's like, a picture would be fine. And then he's like, what do you want to do a picture with all of us together? That's perfectly fine. In fact, that's even better because it's cheaper on me and it's cheaper on him, where we can both get a combined picture that turned out great. And we paid significantly less for it because we did halvesies, which was great too. But I almost asked him, and I went, I think he would because he was very nice. In fact, this could have been a line. This could have been a put on. This could have been a line. But he went and he talked to my son. And he's like, so what are you guys, like your brothers? And I think he was referring to like all of us together. And I went, no, that's my friend. I said, and that's my son. And he went, that's your son? I thought you were brothers. And I'm like, Mr. Sheen, flattery will get you everywhere. No, he was very kind. We talked to him actually for a few minutes because it was at the end of his line right before he was about to go to a photo op, and I think we had a little extra time with him. I really think he would have did an intro. It would have been cool to have him do an intro. But as mentioned, now my friend's involved, my son's involved, and I'm like, do I want to be the awkward person that just like, hey, let's do a random intro for my channel? I just decided to offer the picture. So then, as you well know, and I know you well know this, I go out to the vendor area, as I often do, and the boy, if you watch my channels, in my Steel City Con videos, you know he's grabbing a ring, and he did grab a ring. And in this case, it's the LSU ring, the LSU National Championship Paul Skeens championship ring, of which, Paul Skeens is a very hot commodity in the baseball world, and considering he plays for the Pirates, this is probably the last championship ring he'll have until he leaves the Pirates, because I want the Pirates to succeed, but I have never seen them win a World Series in my lifetime. And I have no faith that they'll win a World Series in my lifetime because they never seem to make all the moves necessary to win. And even though they made moves in the positive this year, they still did not do enough. But, one of these times, and I love the vendor area. The vendor area is a giant toy store and collectible store, and normally something I would feast off of. But because I'm so celebrity focused, and I raise all this money throughout the year and just throw money here and there and sell stuff on eBay and sell cards and sell all this stuff to get this money together, to then meet these people, I rarely have money, other than getting a ring for my child, for the vendor area. One of these times, I'm just going to go feasting on the vendor area and buy these fun collectibles and toys and stuff I look at all the time that I never get a chance to buy because I waste all my money with the celebrities. But I do want to thank, and if you're with me this far, hopefully you're a fan. I can imagine other people around because I tend to ramble a lot. But a large group of people at various points during this con stopped me and said they watched the channel. That's unbelievable to me. That doesn't happen a lot, and anytime it does, I'm truly floored by it. I gave everybody who said they watched the channel a TomWasHere sticker. Generally, when I'm at large events, I have this sticker. I have this sticker as a little thank you for saying you watch the channel. It means the world to me when you do, and I thank literally everybody that stopped me today to say they watched the channel. And if you see me at Steel City Con and you watch the channel, always, always, always stop and say hi. You want to talk about Steel City, you want to talk about anything, I'll happily talk to you. I love meeting people who watch the channel. It means the world to me, and thank you so much. So that is Steel City Con for August 2024. I would have loved to do more than one day. I did get the vast majority of the people I really wanted to meet. Weird Al, Mark Summers, Thomas Lennon, Mike O'Malley, John C. McGinley, Martin Sheen. I would have loved to meet Priscilla Presley. That would have been interesting. I would have loved to meet Rodman. I think Rodman would have been interesting. I would have loved to meet, say, like Billy West or Kevin Eastman. Let me know your thoughts on Steel City Con. Did you go this time? Did you like it? Was there anybody you wanted to meet? Was there anybody that you, were considering meeting, but their line was too long? I love Cobra Kai. I really enjoyed that show. I was not like the biggest Karate Kid fan by any stretch, but the Cobra Kai lines and the lines for the Karate Kid and the lines for the guy from Supernatural, which I never watched an episode, were ridiculous today. And this was a Friday. Friday's not super big line. I did not wait all that long for Weird Al. I did not wait all that long for Martin Sheen. I expected them to be longer waits, to be honest with you. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on Steel City Con August 2024. Did you like it? Did you have a good time? Did you meet everybody you wanted to meet? I would love your comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new here, make sure to like, share, subscribe. If you like support me on Patreon, like John Bailey, like Brett Persing, like Fan, you can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, TomWasHere t-shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Arena Club, and everything else, including the Pennsylvania Autograph Collectors Association. Links are in the description below. But when it comes to Steel City Con, August 2024 edition, I can officially say that my name is Tom and I was here. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. Bye, everyone.